Okay, I'm going to welcome them all here on behalf of the New West Hospice Society and the Arts Council of New Westminster. My name is Wendy Johnson. I'm the current Vice President and a founding member of the New West Hospice Society. And this is our fourth project in partnership with the Arts Council. And so Stephen O'Shea is joining us as well this evening. And we are delighted to be working with artist Celeste Snowber and tonight with Chris Jung. Chris is from the New Media Gallery. The Arts Council of New Westminster and New West Hospice Society acknowledge that we are located on the unceded and traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Kakite. So this evening, if you need closed captioning, it's available by pushing the CC button on the black bar at the bottom of your screen. As Chris said, we're going to be recording, so if you don't want to be recorded, please turn your camera off. And our community guidelines stipulate that there will be zero tolerance for those who promote discrimination or harm against others. We expect that you will respect the opinions of others, and please don't assume that pronouns, gender, or knowledge based on someone's name or video image. And please be as present as possible, but if you need to get up or take a break, please feel free to do so. Our presenter this evening is Chris Jung. He's an artist with a background in computers and engineering. He received his Master of Applied Arts from Emily Carr in 2016. He runs the NMG Lab for New Media Gallery, and he develops workshops, residencies, and other programming for the public, for artists, for schools and universities. And we're delighted to be working in partnership with him as well. So Chris, I want to turn things over to you.
Thank you, Wendy. So my name is Chris. I am an artist, and to be specific, the type of art that I'm interested in, it's interactive art. But I spend a lot of time behind the camera. Like I do a lot of work that uses sensors and cameras, and it's more along the documentary kind of focus. So, and that's kind of what this workshop is about, is the idea of using the camera that we are going to be, oh, sorry, someone just popped in. I'll just let somebody come in and then I'll finish my thought. So yeah, so we'll all be using a camera as we participate in this project. And so what we're going to be really thinking of is how we can use this camera to activate the performance that we are all going to be doing. And also to kind of think about how we can use the camera movement to communicate these feelings of, you know, the feelings of loss and of, you know, the COVID situation we find us in. Maybe some people have some loved ones who've you know, who've needed hospice care. Actually, a friend of mine passed just 3 weeks ago after being in hospice for like over a year. So this is actually something that I'm very happy and proud to be like a part of, because I've been actually thinking a lot about you know, the emotions and how best to communicate them. And that's like a big part of, I think, everybody who's an artist, their practice. So this workshop, it's going to be about half, you know, how do I use, you know, a smartphone? How, you know, everybody kind of has like different, you know, phones, or you have an iPad, or maybe you just want to use like a video camera that you have. So we're going to kind of talk about how to take the technology, the film technology that you have, and transfer it so that you can participate in this project. And the other half, we are going to look deeply into how, like, the frame that we will be using, which is very different, especially, I think, from last week's workshop. A lot of people are performance artists here, and probably have a lot of experience on the stage, and there's a slight difference in how you think about movement and space when you're looking through, the four, walls of a video screen, as compared when you have like this panoramic view of a performance of a theater space. And so we're going to kind of really think about how we can use this to our advantage. So it's not so yeah. Let's get started. Now, I like to do check-ins and see how everybody's feeling. If anybody has any like quick questions before I start babbling on. Is everybody okay right now? Awesome. Okay, so how are we going to use these phones? Let's okay. There we go. So does anybody have an Android or like a Google, one of those? A few people? So, oh yeah, and also if you want to just chime in and ask questions, I'm totally open to people just letting me know if they have a question. Oh, community. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I'm just going to play something. Let me know if you want me to slow down. Oh. So if you have an Android, or your screen might look similar to this, but the big thing is, at the bottom, you kind of see it looks like a little eye, and that's like their basic camera. So when you use your camera, you'll see you can flip it front and backwards. Oh yeah, also, I apologize, like some people are really, really advanced with cameras, and this might be like super dry for them. But I know some people, it might be something that they haven't quite used before. So I'm going to go really simple with it. So the big thing that I just let everybody know is that when you touch the screen of your camera, that's kind of how you focus. And then you see at the bottom, there's like a sun that looks really bright, and then a sun that looks really dark. And that's basically how you're going to change the exposure on your camera. So I think most people know, like once you have your camera set, you have it on video. With the Android, there's two little buttons. There's like oh, and yeah, this is I saw a squirrel. So I was like getting really into that squirrel. And you'll see that there's two buttons. The big one, the big kind of gray one in the middle, is for stills, and then the red one is for recording. And now I think we're going to get into, so I'm going to show something a little bit more advanced. You saw that's the manual video button. And what this gives you the ability is you can actually use your camera like a DSLR, or like, an actual film camera. So there's something called ISO. That's pretty much the exposure level of your camera, but it's not real. So you kind of want to keep it, for me, at around 100 or lower, because anything over 100, you start getting grain. And then below the ISO, there's this S, and that's basically the speed that you're taking your photo. So it's how much light that the camera is allowing in for every frame. So basically, the higher the fraction, the quicker, the less light it's going to let in. So when I'm adjusting for light and color, I usually start at the ISO, try to get the ISO as low as I can, and then I'll go with the shutter speed until I have, a picture that looks, lit and the colors are working. And you'll kind of see I'm going to move this camera up, and then that's going to basically, I'm going to like aim it at the sun, which is going to change the light. So you'll kind of see that in manual mode, you have to be a lot more aware. But the control can also give you lots of creative abilities. So rather than letting the software take care of the picture for you, if you want things to look really, really, I'd say, blown out, because sometimes you want things to look a certain way, or you want it to be really dark, you can control that. And you don't have to just rely on the default software of your phone. So you see, as I'm going up, I'm actually I adjusted the shutter speed a bit. And then over here, I'm just going to pause this a bit. If I go back a little bit, see there's this little gear. That gear just gets you into settings. Then you can also change all kinds of other things in your film. So you can change the frame rate. I like to stay at 24 frames per second because whenever you watch a movie, that's at 24 frames a second. So I feel like it feels a little bit more filmic. You can go at higher rates. It'll just look a little smoother, a little bit more like what you see on Instagram and YouTube. So then, that was a little quick. So after you've recorded your film, your video is going to live in the little gallery icon. Here, I'm going to go. Oh, there we go. There. So you go to gallery, and you will see it right there. So you go to like the little play area, and then you see a bunch of little videos that you've made. And then the Android, in that gallery, there's some ability to edit your video. So you don't have to get another piece of software, but we can talk about other software if you really want to go ahead and if you want to make something like really cinematic, there's like some software that we can talk about that you can grab. But so basically, when you click edit, here I'll try to go back a bit. So there's like a little edit button. It's those. There you go. And then you'll see at the bottom, there's this thing that we kind of it's called a scrub bar, but it's basically your whole film in all its little frames. So you can just drag the edges just with your finger to like trim it. And then there's these two little, it has like a 1 on it that can change the speed of your film. So you can click that. So you can make your film really fast or really slow. And there we go. And so we have, I'll pause this. So we have a film. The little blue highlighted area is the whole film. And then right above it, you see this, there's like a little X and 1. That means it's like 1 times speed, normal speed. But you can click on that little X1 and you can make it twice as fast or twice as slow or half as fast. Oh. And also there is a few extra, every time I click that. Yeah, there's some like effects that you can get into. So you can change, the general colorization of your film. And you can even change like how strong you want it. And then there's even, you can add a soundtrack if you want. We'll talk a little bit about soundtracks at the end. And you can even add titles. And after that, yeah, you just save it, and then you can share it, and you can send it to Instagram, or you can send it to another video editor, and that's pretty much, what you need to do to make a video on an Android. So now we're here, does anybody have any questions before I go on to Apple? And it's, here, I'll see if I can get this.
I have a question, just maybe after the Apple, that perhaps just to address, because we're doing movement and dance, and it really would need to either be on a tripod if somebody else isn't doing the video, and if you want to just speak to that at some point, not now, but after.
Well, yeah, we're gonna get to the movement part. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah. This is just like how to get the thing.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Great.
So this will go a little faster because the Apple, it works pretty much the same. There's some slight differences. So on an Apple, smartphone, the app, as you can see, you kind of have a very similar view, and you kind of work it, pretty much the same way. The iPhone doesn't have as many options as the Android in being able to like control shutter speed and things like that. So it has like a lot of these kind of like really smart filming things, like, the bokeh effects and things like that. So that's just something to be aware of. So similarly, you touch the screen, and wherever you touch, it makes a little square, and that's where you focus. And then you see the little sun. It's not, left and right, it's up and down now. But it pretty much does the same thing. And then you can take your film, you can record it. And then instead of the gallery, it's the Photos app. And you can do some quick editing in here. And as you can see, the scrub bar is very similar. So instead of like being blue and highlighted, it's yellow and highlighted. And one thing that you can do with the Apple phone that isn't on the Android is you can change your aspect ratio, because in Instagram, if you used Instagram, the videos, like Instagram is kind of square shaped. So you can automatically just make everything square shaped. And that kind of helps you with your composition. And then it has many of the same, filters. And you can kind of see like the difference. Like that's the original recording, and that's the new aspect ratio. So now you have your video, and you need to send it to Instagram.
Okay, so hang on, I need to back it up a little bit, please.
For sure.
And ask some very obvious questions to those who know, but for those who don't. when you take the video, do you leave the phone that direction, or do you need to turn it this direction?
Yeah, so I would keep it vertical.
Vertical, okay.
Just because with Instagram, just the way their aspect ratio works, it's not like you're never going to take anything too wide. It wants things to be really like slim.
Okay.
So there isn't.
Yeah. Sorry, go on. It's just that when you're doing movement and dance on iPhones, or the landscape view really allows for more movement, and often can't you just do it in landscape and do it horizontal, and then put it, and then you can post it to landscape view on Instagram?
You can, but you lose a lot of the video, and it would also affect the. So, well, this is something I was going to talk about. When we're working, like in Instagram, we're actually working in a genre, right? This is like a new genre that is taking off. That's being created, and we're kind of working within that realm. And while you can make a landscape video, it's not guaranteed. Like when we edit it all together, it's not, if everybody kind of picks like their own aspect ratio, and a lot of people won't know to pick the landscape aspect ratio, it wouldn't, when it's cut together, it won't be as cohesive. So in my mind, working within the Instagram genre of and we'll get to how that is, I think is beneficial in this instance, seeing as we're playing in the Instagram playground right now.
Yeah, but okay, this is difficult because most site-specific performers use the landscape view to upload it to Instagram because you need the width for dance. So I'm just wondering if there's alternatives that we could.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I know how to do it. I'm just curious. I know we need continuity, but I'm just the aesthetic for the aesthetic.
Yeah, well, I would counter that we're working in a different aesthetic, and there is performance. Like there's a lot of performance that's going on in TikTok and Instagram that is using performance, and the movement is different, but it's also so. And that's kind of what I want to discuss in this workshop is how are we going to be working in this space? Are we going to, are we going to be participating within the genre of Instagram, within this movement? And I guess it is your choice. If someone does, like, I'm not going to tell you to not do landscape, but I think I'm going to move this workshop forward with the idea of the genre of people who perform within the Instagram like confinements that they find themselves in, and I'll really get into it. Yeah, Marlies.
Yeah.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, just to be obvious, the square thing that you do you do that in the editing? You don't. There's not a setup to film it as a square, no.
With an iPhone, it does give you that ability, but Instagram will also give you that ability. It's more about like the playground you're playing in. It's more about like your options.
I'm in iPhone, but where do I find that setting?
Yeah. So if I go back, here we go. I'm in Instagram already. So if we go into the iPhone, and then you hit the edit button.
Okay. Where are we? Have you downloaded a particular? I've got a little icon with colored circles called photos, and I've got another one called
that is
camera.
the exact app. Yeah.
So go into the photos one or the camera one?
It's the photos app. Okay. So once you have your video, and you can you can have it landscape if you want. There's nothing like like I said, there's nothing against that. But if you want to work within the square format that is traditionally Instagram, you hit the edit button. Here, I'm going to go back. So all the way back. Okay, so here we're in photos, right? There's a little edit button in the top right. It's a little blue edit button. And then once you hit that, you go into a new screen. Then we have that scrub bar, the kind of that we saw in the Android. And this is all going to be recorded, so you can go back and you can review. And then once you're in this little view, at the bottom, you see there's like a crop button, and the crop button is where you can change your aspect ratios. And so you can change to any, like a freeform or square, which is, you know, the default Instagram. But the thing is, if you're cropping square here, you can actually choose a little easier where you want to crop. So you can get like just the right crop. So it gives you a little bit more control.
So would this then be something that you would change your distance to be a wider sort of picture frame by being further away, therefore you can dance within that space as opposed to the landscape? Terms of movement. So in other words, can you film from further away, and then when you crop it, it'll come back in again?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So you can zoom in and you can zoom out if you want even.
Okay.
So once you have, you know, your video edited, and it's up to you if you want to edit it, because as we go through, you're going to see there's a lot of choices that you're going to have. So I'm in Instagram. And then I just hit the little plus button, right there. And then now we can choose a photo. So I'm choosing the square photo or the square video, sorry. And then I am just letting it load. And then I can also choose my original with the long aspect ratio. And as Dr. Snowber mentioned, you see at the bottom left of that picture, there's like this little, it looks like, you know, a square that's kind of like bifurcated. That would give you the ability to change the aspect ratio to the wide ratio if you want. So you see, I hit that button, it'll give you your original aspect ratio. And then kind of very similar to your editing, you can go into, you know, there's a bunch of filters on Instagram. So as you just keep hitting that little next button, it'll allow you to change the look of your videos. And this is kind of, so once you have your video chosen and ready to upload, you just add hashtag Dance to the End of Love, at Arts Council, New Westminster, at NMG Lab, at New Media Gallery, at New West Hospice, and then you just tag a friend. So I'm just going to tag myself so that I don't, like, you know, intrude on anybody's, you know, privacy. So that's my whole talk about, this is the technical part of the workshop, like just how to, you know, the apps that you need to use and how to get it on Instagram. And so before we get into the performance and the social media aspect of this workshop, does anybody have any questions? Anything that you want me to, like, kind of go over?
Can I ask a quick question, Christopher? If we aren't on Instagram, should we still put it together as though we were for consistency and coherence?
I would say you know, just from the temperature of the room, I would say just send your video. But you might change your mind after this second bit.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and sorry, Dorothy said, I've had trouble editing my iPhone videos. Can you talk about the correct method? So yeah, so there is a few ways that you can edit. Actually, iPhone has a really powerful editor called iMovie. I don't think we have time to really get into iMovie itself, but yes. So you can't, so in iMovie, you can add soundtracks and songs. So, I don't really have image of iMovie, but I'm just trying to, here it is. So I would look into iMovie. It's actually pretty easy. It looks very similar to that editing screen that you see when you edit in photos, except there's a little plus sign. And whenever you see a plus sign, that means you can add more stuff. So you can add songs. It has that little scrubby thing, so you can cut your clips together. You can add extra clips, and you can make one long video. So I would look into iMovie. And if you want, just because there might be, you can email me. And I can give you like a little video of like tutorials on how to like use iMovie, but it's very user friendly. Are you able to specs and format accessible? Yeah, so most phones, they're gonna like film in 1080p or HD video. So I wouldn't worry too much about resolution, just because most phones and most cameras now give you really good resolution. I don't think we're because it's going to be on Instagram, you don't need anything higher than that. So yeah, and the aspect ratio, sound backing specs. Oh, so you mean like the background, like background music, background sound?
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, you could just import MP3s. 192 bits per second is usually, you know, the standard quality. If you want to get like super technical, but I don't think. Yeah, I think as long as it sounds good to you, it should be fine. But at the end of this, I'm actually going to talk a little bit about how sound and how music kind of works in social media, because it's yeah, it's a thing. So I'm just going to move on. Oh, hold on. Oh, before I get to that. So we're working in social media. Like this whole project is going to be going up on Instagram. And as I was talking with Dr. Snowber a little earlier, we are working within a genre. This is a new genre, and it is pretty much like it is something that has been led by a whole generation of people creating content. And I'm getting into popular culture here, because popular culture is part of culture in a whole. And when we are creating content that is going into a space that has been created by a group of people, we are either participating in it or commenting on it or critiquing it, but it is intertwining into that genre. So we are becoming a part of it. So we do have to be aware of the rules that they work in. And performance, especially performance of music, is a really big aspect of this genre. And so I'm going to play something. This is Jalea Harmon, and this kind of is the prototypical camera placement of, you know, most social media performances. And I'm going to show it, and then we're going to talk about it a bit. I'm gonna put it down a bit. So there are thousands of young performers who are creating movement and, you know, dance. And one thing I kind of want, I'm just going to talk about kind of like the compositional things that are kind of happening. So if you notice, a lot of the movement that people are creating, because they are very aware that this is TikTok, so their aspect ratio is a little different, it's a little taller, but they're very aware that they have this limited space. So their movements are actually almost, they're constrained by that space. And so they're creating this genre with the idea that these movements that I'm creating is going to be in here, and it's going to communicate through this space. So maybe somebody can like, is anybody, let's open this up to everybody else, and maybe we can talk about, you know, this kind of movement, how it's being communicated. I actually am playing it, this is half speed, because honestly the actual thing is like way too fast for me to like pay attention to. So I have to kind of play it slower just so I can kind of see. But yeah, and we have a bunch of performance artists. So maybe we can hear like how this is being communicated to you. And this is a 14-year-old artist. Her name's Jalea Harmon. And this dance actually became viral. Even though a lot of people don't know that she created a dance. It was actually, but you see there's actually lots of people, they see this dance, they learn it, and then they recreate it themselves. And then it becomes a whole thing.
So my question is, how do we
Yes.
how do we go viral without? Do we have to get some new moves going there? Celeste, you're going to have to give us some lessons.
Yeah, I just want to bring up the fact that there's actually genres within the genre. Like there, you know, there's performance artists are very different. There's so many different kinds of performance artists, and actually there actually isn't very many performance artists necessarily in this, I know in this video. There's a whole subset of dance and site-specific performance that they actually, it isn't so much the TikTok dancers. It's a very different genre within the genre. So there's many different artists using different kinds of modalities within Instagram. And so I think that people will have to choose what they want to communicate, how it's communicated best. And I guess my question for you, Chris, is that, you know, something that might go viral may be very different than something that might have an aesthetic sensibility for someone else. And is the purpose of it to go viral, or is it more concerned with continuity in terms of what you might bring together at the final? Because I know a lot of, I live in the world of site-specific performance, at least all over the world, and most people, there's a variety of actually, you know, in diversity in terms of how it's posted. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, this is just looking within this very specific, you know, dance motif that.
Right. So like the popular dance culture, TikTok, that kind of, that goes crazy. Yeah. I mean, that, you know, it's viral.
Well, I don't think like Jalea didn't create this to go viral. It just ended up going viral.
Right.
And a lot of these young artists, like the ones who actually invent these performances, it isn't like the ones who actually become popular and go on to like make lots and lots of money off this are not the people who create, are often, more often than not the ones who create these dances. And so it's something that, you know, I find very interesting in that because it's like an important part of culture.
Right.
And it's also like, often the these performers are, people of color, and the people who actually end up becoming the viral sensations are not. And so and I think it's very important that when we create something within this platform, especially like with the themes that we're working with, that we be sensitive and have it in mind that there is this subset that exists, and that we should acknowledge. And so that's kind of why I want to show this, but also I want to talk about the framing and how that there is this, because I can't remember, somebody did mention about like, how are we going to hold our phones up? And most of these of the people who are creating Instagrams and TikToks, they they don't have someone to film them, so they will set their phone up. Usually they don't have a tripod either, so it's actually just below eye level. You're always kind of looking up slightly, and they're always centered. And so we have this kind of static shot where you really have to force your movement to be, and that's also like why I had this slowed down, because the movement is very grand, and a lot of that is to make up for the fact that they have this static shot. And so one thing that you can think of when you're creating, I'm not telling everybody to do this, this is just one idea, and I'm going to go to another clip, and I'm actually, it's a slow progression where the camera work is different, but the actual dance fundamentals have been retained. So we're going to go to this right here. So this is a Korean, this is a K-pop dancer named Hyunjin, and he's actually really well known in Korean as a dancer. So we're gonna and yeah, so this is obviously, this is the wide aspect ratio, because this was filmed for television. But one thing that I find interesting is a lot of the movements are still very contained, in that you see Hyunjin, he's using a lot of choreographed and fast, quick snaps, but he's not moving like left or right. But the camera is doing a lot of the movement for him. So we get this kind of extra, movement from, oh, sorry, hopefully that person wasn't waiting too long, from the camera. And so we get a lot of pullbacks, and we get a lot of like left and right from the camera.
So would he
Yes,
be
Marley.
would he sort of be dancing on a frame, like a square that you'd be type a square on the floor, or how does he contain that, or is it just in the way that he's choreographed the dance?
Yeah, so well, this actually, it's very similar. Yeah, these choreo, like the choreography is most likely marked for like when you're filming, they usually put like some gaffer tape and an X, and then you're usually standing on top of that, and that's your mark. And the camera is basically in its own choreography is moving around with you, knowing that you have to stay on your mark. Because if you move from your mark, you will basically stray out of the frame.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I guess I'm curious about the focus or the intention. And I'm looking at this video and the last one, and it's very much sort of camera centric in the sense that it's a dancer on stage. They're very cognizant, and you can tell that they're aware of performing for the camera or for the video. And I'm wondering, I guess what I was envisioning was engaging with the landscape more, and creating something organic by engaging with the landscape. So I guess I'm just wondering what the focus should be. Is it about site-specific engagement, or is it more about performing for the camera per se within the frame? I'm not even sure if that's clear, but I'm just trying to understand sort of the intention of it.
Well, the way I see it, the camera is a character that you are. It's not a static thing. Even when you just keep it still, it is kind of like when I was saying at the beginning. It's its own participatory like viewer, and it has a frame. So I wouldn't say you're performing for the camera, but it should be in my mind. It's a collaboration. So when you're performing live, you have all this space, and the audience, they get to choose, what their view is. But when you are performing in front of a camera, that choice becomes limited, and then it's up to you or whoever's controlling the camera to make those, choices in how you are going to move the frame. And so I'm kind of showing these videos as kind of a way to show like different methods that people kind of use within, like, I'm going to pop culture right now, but I'm gonna move a little bit further in a bit. But it's just trying to get like a good idea of ways that you can use the camera, and you can work with the camera as a collaborative piece and not as something that is like a passive observer. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So one more video. And so this is the great Bill T. Jones. And he explains a lot of this about movement in a great way that I can't. And he's also, this is well, we'll just watch the clip and I'll talk a little bit more about it. Oh, actually, someone's asking some questions. Where can we get royalty-free music for use on iPhones and videos? Yeah, so most classical music is royalty-free. There are many there's many websites that are repositories for public domain movies and music and sounds. And so I can send a few links to that too at the end of this. So I will remind myself to do that. But here, let's watch some Bill T. Jones.
I've got no sound. Can we hear sound on this?
You know there's no sound, right?
Oh, is the sound off?
You can't hear any sound, right?
Oh.
You know that?
Oh, the whole time?
I think
hold on.
I thought you didn't. Okay.
Hold on. Share sound. Oh man.
Because he has a great voice.
So that would explain a lot. Okay, let's take this from the top.
I come in today as a dancing human. My collaborator is a machine that doesn't really know what a dancing human is.
So this project came about, and I guess it's so much more of an experiment than a project, because we don't know what is about to happen here or what we're gonna get out of this. But, you know, we wanted to see what would happen when you put someone like Bill, a National Medal of the Arts honoree, a MacArthur Fellow, a 2-time Tony winner. What happens when you put a technology like PoseNet in the hands of an artist of that caliber?
Also important that we be able to center our artists, right? And especially as a tech company, the importance of understanding that our artists are our place of humanity.
I'm known for talking solos. This is what I do. I've been doing it for 30 years. Do you want to have Bill T. Jones doing it and hear the way Bill T. Jones says the words?
Yes.
But then we should have the microphone on then.
Every day, I play the game and cheat the system. Every now and then, I f up and get caught. And still, I'll try it again. Hey! Do you hear me?
You pay us great compliment by speaking the language we speak. And you have a very strong Chinese identity. And I would like to be able to actually know the other man as well.
During lunch, my mom and I were trying it out, and we can do it in Chinese right now, if you want.
我说你为什么问我怕不怕血
Why are you asking if I'm afraid of blood?
大夫告诉我她是女孩
And they told me it's a girl. Nice.
Okay, thank you. Why are you applauding?
That was awesome.
You felt emotion. You were emotionally engaged.
Yep.
Okay, that's what we're going for, right?
As a dancer and a technologist, there wasn't a lot of overlap between me dancing or, me coding. And with this project, one of the most exciting things is that it's this example of how you can use new technologies in combination with other art forms or other mediums of expression.
Okay, so that's so I think hopefully maybe that last that last clip might have maybe brought this into more perspective. Kind of the ideas behind, because that's what we're doing. We are trying to find a middle ground between like the performance and also this technology, these new ways of seeing and experiencing media. Because with Instagram, people are not going to be watching Instagram on a TV. They're not going to be watching it on the computer that we are. Most people are going to be using it on a phone. And the screen on the phone, like, people don't hold their phones like this. They hold it like this, and they're scrolling up and down. And so we really have to be cognizant that that technology is how people are consuming your performance. And kind of like what Bill was saying, is that it's a collaboration with this technology. And he was using this great piece of software that basically can read your movement and then create these wireframes, and then you can create computer code that will interact with your movement in real time. And you probably also noticed that everybody was working. You saw that big X, right? we were talking about that with Hyunjin's performance, because that is, your marks are often pretty integral when you are, filming, when you're creating videos, because of the frames, because you can't always predict where you have to basically you have to work with the camera, and if you dismiss the camera, then you run the risk of it not being able to capture your performance in its entirety. And so hopefully that last clip has created some a form of holistic closure. So with that said, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, Marlies.
So my question is, in terms of putting this all together, is there some thread that we are wanting to pull through besides the themes, in terms of indoors, outdoors, background, color? Is there something that we want to pull through, that there's a linking thing, or is that not part of this? Is it not, the way he had different artists in the same background and foreground and everything, but doing way different things, but they would be linked in terms of that. If you put those all together, then it becomes something that's connected.
Well, in my mind, however you can communicate your intentions, I would focus on that. And if you saw Dr. Snowber's workshop last week, there was a performance in a kitchen. And there was also a performance out by the waterfront. And so I don't think the background is also there to reinforce. It's part of your composition. So it could be in front of a blank space, but you have to think about how does what's behind me, how's what's in front of me feeding into the overall communication that I'm trying to convey and the emotions. So if your surroundings is taking away from it, I would go somewhere else. And so I guess that's the best way I can communicate that.
Thank you.
And before, yes.
I was just going to say, just to echo what Christopher is saying, I think that the way this was designed, even when Stephen and Wendy came to me, there's a sense, I think that it can be a wide diversity in how you are going to relate to a landscape or place. And as well, it really is more of the intention to the continuity is as an expression of coming out of COVID. So that could be something that has a lot of levity, or it could be something that you're exploring grief and compassion. But the thread, the place, and please correct me if I'm wrong, like as I would call it, like an ecology of place, or the environment that you're in is going to be, it could be very, very different for each of you. And there's freedom to explore that in all kinds of ways.
That was my thinking too, Celeste. I think you got the nail on the head.
Yeah.
That is the unifying theme.
Yeah. And I have one question, Christopher. I really love how you talk about the camera as a character. And I'm curious, how can we animate that more when the camera is still? Like, I know that, when I'm working with a videographer, and I really feel like there's a co-creation, and so I feel the camera in a different way than if the camera is just still. Just wondering if you could just talk more about that to help us in that as well. Thanks.
So as I said with the very first, like a lot of these performers, they'll put their camera a little below eyesight, and that's mostly because they're putting it on a table. I would really think about the camera angle, and basically there is narrative communication with how high you put the camera, how low you put the camera, and even what angle you put the camera. So if you want to really convey power within your subject, you want to have like you want more extreme angles. Like angles to me, they convey a lot of intensity, a lot of power. If you are looking for things that are more subtle, more calming, you want to think the eye line. You want to keep things within here so that your face, no matter like where you are, your expression, your your eyes are the ones that are always in the right proportions and the right and are always engaging you. And even like moving closer, if you have the camera like right here on your eye line and you move way out into into the distance, and then you move all the way forward, you're still being followed. And that's like one thing that that I think that everybody should really keep in mind, is that whatever is in the middle of the camera, even if you don't think about it, that's what the camera's like paying attention to.
That's really helpful, Chris. Thank you. That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, and just before I go, I know I'm a little over. Somebody was asking about copyright and about music. So I'll say a good website, there's a lot, if you just look up public domain, like free public domain, Google it, you'll find lots of websites that have copyright free music. And I'm just going to quickly go over fair use in Canada, or fair use in the United States, fair dealing in Canada. So Canada has like super great laws in regards to being able to use things, especially for art and satire, performance, education. So in general, like you are, as long as it's for artistic purposes or education purposes, using copyrighted material is usually okay, as long as you're not profiting from it. In the United States, it's a little bit more stringent, and YouTube and Instagram and all these things, they actually work. They're companies based in the United States, and they're private companies, so their terms of service is based off of these American rules. So they still have something called fair use, which means if it is for like a performance or education, you can use it, but usually you have to cite everything. So you see everything here has been cited. And there's usually like limits. So as long as you don't like play a whole song, like a snippet of a song, or it's in the background and it's being modified in some way by something else, it's usually okay. But YouTube runs off of the American system. So even though like you personally will not be, are probably fine being in Canada with everything, YouTube can take down your video. And so I'm just gonna, how can we add sound to, okay, colors and color contrasts. I would say lighting is more important than colors and color contrast. I wouldn't wear checks because you get this moire effect, which messes things up. So like lines that are really close together, like pinstripes, don't really work well on film. Checks don't work well on film. You do want really great light, but the best light is always sunlight. It always looks the best. How can we add sound to our video? For either you play it in the background of, while you're performing, or you have to get like a video editing software like iMovie, or on the Android, what's it called? I actually don't use the Android that much, so I have to always look it up. I think it's a video, well, it's this app called VN, like Victor Niner. And yeah, and I think that's it. Any other questions before we head out?
I think we need to wrap up. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, Yeah, I think Roxanne has the question.
I had asked how we get access to the video from last week and this one.
It's going to be on YouTube under the Arts Council of New Westminster website.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I think Roxanne, do you have a question? Now this is the last one, then we're done.
No, I know. Sorry, I came in 3 minutes late. So I came on, I think, after the blurb of the whole video. But what I was being inspired by, and hopefully this is okay, is I wanted to, usually the devices are static to capture your movement. And I wanted the dancer to be the actual device and I'm static. Is that a possibility? Is that complicate things? Is it open-ended?
I know. I'll let Dr. Snowber maybe chime in on this.
Okay.
What was your question? Is the dancer, say the last question, say it again.
Well, basically the response as I was watching everything and hearing the conversation, I also missed the very introduction to it. So I do apologize for that. But I was wondering of role reversal of making my camera, so it'd be my iPhone, be the dancer and I would be the static one.
I think there is many ways to artistically and aesthetically integrate dance and movement in relationship to your camera, as there are kinds of relationships. It is a relationship. It's a space between the mover and the camera, and it's a connection, and however you choose, that is your artistic choice.
Thank you.
And I think that what's important in this whole project is that you play with it, make a whole bunch of them, play, and then see what you want. We don't want to be so precious about this is the only one. Do it from afar. You just switch it up. That's what creativity is. So, yeah.
Thank you.
This is so great, Chris. You've given us so much to think and ponder and to add to this wonderful stew of this project.
Thank you. Yeah, and so thank you everybody for your patience and for letting me